Good morning, students. And we have been studying routing in ad hoc networks. Okay. So basically, we have not yet started with the protocols or the routing protocols for ad hoc networks, but we have just looked at how routing can be more difficult in ad hoc networks compared to the traditional networks. And then we had an overview of the two basic routing protocols, the popular ones in wired networks. Okay. So today we are going to start with our MANET routing protocols. So there are around four protocols that you need to study. So I'm going to teach you the first one today. Okay. So they are quite simple. So you just need to pay attention. Okay. So let's start with the first one today. Before we start the first one, it is based on some topics that we had studied yesterday. So I'll just revise briefly what we did yesterday and then start with that new algorithm, a new protocol of routing. If in case we lose connectivity, please call me or send a WhatsApp message on the class group. Okay. So yesterday we had studied one of the algorithms in wired networks was distance vector. Okay. So in distance vector, I told you the routes are advertised using two parameters. One is the distance between the nodes. Okay. And the second one is the direction. So the direction is obtained just by in which direction the packet has to be forwarded. So suppose we had a network like this somewhat. Okay. Say there were four nodes A, B, C, and D. Okay. So A would obtain the this parameter, that is distance and direction, from its neighbors. Okay. So in distance vector, like I told you, only the nodes can communicate with its direct neighbors. They cannot communicate with nodes that are not connected to them or that are not their neighbors. Okay. So here we'll assume that B and C are the neighbors of A. Okay. So in that case, A can communicate only with A, B, and C. Okay. It cannot communicate with D. It will never be able to find out the status of D directly. Okay. It cannot find out the status of D directly. It can only find out the status of D based on the information given by its neighbors. Okay. So therefore, we had called this process of routing by distance vector is routing by rumor, because A gets the information of D only by the information given by its neighbors that are connected to D. Okay. So therefore, it has to believe whatever its neighbors are saying. Then another important thing was this algorithm was based on the Bellman-Ford algorithm. Okay, so the routing, the distance calculation, and the connectivity graph was calculated using the Bellman-Ford algorithm. Okay, so in this, just for example, A wanted the distance from to B. Okay, so this parameter would be collected like this. It will store it in a table. Okay, to store the information in a table. So for example, for it wants to send a packet to B. Okay, so the destination node would be B. Okay, and the packet has to be forwarded in this direction. Okay, so it would write the next node where the packet has to be transmitted is also B. Okay, and suppose the distance was 1, then it would write here the metric for distance. It could write distance here as 1. This would how your table would look like for with respect to your neighbor for A, when you are calculating the routing table for A, and then you are finding the distance for routing from A to all the other nodes in the network. Okay, so from A, you want to send the packets to all the other nodes. So similarly, there would be entries for the node C and for the node D. Okay. So for example, the shortest path to node C will be also the next packet has to be forwarded to the since there's a direct connection from A to C, the next node here also entry would be C. Okay. Whatever is the distance that is there, suppose it is 2, then the 2 would be recorded here. Okay. Now to forward a packet from A as the source to D, since there is no direct connection, okay, some shortest path has to be calculated, whatever is the shortest path. So suppose the value here was 1 and here was 2. As you can see here, looking at this just visually, the shortest path is from A to B and B to D. So whenever A wants to send a packet to D, it has to send a packet in this direction from A to B, and then B will forward the packet to D. Okay, because that is the shortest path. Okay, so here when we are writing the routing table for A, this is now A's routing table. Okay, it is not any other node's routing table. This is the table for A. So we are writing now, whenever we want to send a packet to D, here we have to make an entry in the direction the packet has to be sent. And as you have discovered here, that this is the shortest path. When it is sending a packet, it cannot send a packet directly to D. So it has to write the entry for the next node in which the packet has to be forwarded. Okay, and the next node in the direction of the path is B. So the entry here will be made as B. Okay, and the distance here will be written as 1. Okay, now here sometimes instead of writing the distance to this node, this entire the total length, the total distance from A to D could also be written here. Okay, so most of the times the total distance is written. What is the total distance from A to D? Okay, instead of writing just the distance to the next node. Okay, so this is how a routing table would have been created for node A. So in a similar way, a routing table has to be created for each and every node in the network. So basically, two things would be written in that whatever advertisement is done for the route. One is the distance and one is the next node in the direction of the path. Okay, therefore here it is written as direction. So this is how your distance vector basically would work. Okay, so this is what we have discussed yesterday. So one thing that you need to remember very clearly is each node can get routing information only from its neighbors. Okay, please remember that you can get the routing information only from its neighbors. So neighbors meaning direct connection. Okay, and all other nodes that are not directly connected but are present in the network, those status of those nodes can be only obtained from by rumor. By rumor meaning from the neighbors. Okay, whatever the neighbors are reporting the messages, those messages you have to believe. Okay, so another thing that you need to remember is in distance vector, the entire tables are exchanged. Okay, and these tables, this routing table updates need to be done on a periodic basis. Okay, and you due to this there is a lot of bandwidth wastage. So two important things that you need to remember as we go forward to our MANET routing protocol. Okay, one is in distance vector, you get the routing information. Each node has to get the routing information from its neighbors. The second one is table updates. The entire tables have to be exchanged between the neighbors. Okay, so this is with respect to what this algorithm that we have studied, like I told you, is a wired network algorithm. Okay, distance vector is with respect to wired networks. So then second thing that you need to know is that the today's algorithm that we are going to study is a proactive algorithm. Okay, So with respect to that, you just read this. Yesterday I taught you this. So I've already mentioned all of this. You just read it to revise. So the name of the algorithm also that we are going to study today is mentioned here. So today we are going to study the destination sequence distance vector routing algorithm or routing protocol. Okay. So this algorithm is based on or is an example of the proactive mannered routing protocol. So in proactive, the entire tables need to be updated. Okay. So you keep updating, lot of tables need to be exchanged, and therefore lot of messages need to be sent for updating the tables. So if the topology is very dynamic, okay, means it keeps on changing too frequently, then this algorithm is not the best choice. Okay. So with respect to these two slides, let us study the MANET protocol for routing. Let's start today's with the first one out of the 4 that you need to study. So the first MANET routing protocol that you're going to study is destination sequence distance vector routing. Like I've already told you, it is table driven or proactive protocol. Okay. Then it is based on the distance vector routing protocol. Okay. So it takes the same idea from your wired networks. Okay. That is distance vector routing. And since distance vector routing uses Bellman-Ford algorithm to calculate the connectivity graph, this also algorithm will be using the Bellman-Ford algorithm. So it is based on the distance vector routing protocol. But one disadvantage of your distance vector routing in wired networks was it is to form loops. Okay. So like you know in graphs what are loops? Okay. The starting node and the ending node is the same in that path. Okay. So there would be many loops in those paths in the wired network. So here in MANET routing, when we have adapted this algorithm, they have done away with that disadvantage by avoiding the loops by using some sequence numbers. Okay, so they have used the sequence numbers to avoid the loops. Okay, and since the tables are already created, they are not created when the packets arrive. So the information is already available with each router where the packet has to be forwarded. Okay, then each node will maintain each node that is the source node will maintain the routes for all the other nodes in the network. Okay, so it's not like the routes are calculated on the fly. So the routes are calculated in advance. Okay, and the routing information needs to be updated on a periodic basis. So they, like I told you previously, they are using a sequence numbering scheme to update the routes. Okay, so whenever you use sequence numbering, so I will take an example and I will show you how it works. So don't worry about it. So right now you just know that sequence numbering is used to avoid loops and also to avoid blocked routes. Okay, so the routing tables are updated frequently, but to avoid the disadvantage of the wired networks distance vector protocol, where a lot of bandwidth is to get wasted. Okay, and you know in mobiles we cannot afford to waste bandwidth. Okay, so they used two types of packets for updating the routing information. So one was known as a full dump packet. So in full dump, it would contain all the routing data. Okay, and it would use multiple packets. So those packets would be known as multiple network packet data unit, NPDU. Okay, and then the sequence numbers that were most recent were used. So only those sequence numbers were updated in the nodes routing table, those that were having the most recent sequence number. So full dump packets were used for routing updates only when there were many nodes to be updated or there were many changes in the routing table. Okay, then the nodes would use this full dump packet for updating the routing tables. So when there's lot of information to be updated, then you would use full dump. Okay, so when there was less information to be updated, just maybe one or two routes, okay, not the entire table needs to be updated, or there are not too many changes, that time you would use incremental broadcast. Okay, so this incremental broadcast would only update smaller information, means less number of routes are to be updated, then you would use this. Okay, so by using these two types of packets, the DSDV algorithm would try to minimize the wastage of bandwidth, wherein the bandwidth wastage happens due to exchange of these control messages, okay, to update the routing tables. So, you have any doubts till now? Any doubts, students, till now? Okay, let's continue then. So let's look at the working. Like I told you, I'll show you the working of this DSDB. Okay, so let's calculate the route. Okay, now we are not using the Bellman-Ford algorithm, nothing. We are just trying to understand the basic overview of how this works. Okay, so I'll just show you that. Basically, there's one error in this diagram. I'll correct it later. So this node here is N5. Okay, this is N5 here. So there are 5 nodes. Assume there are 5 nodes. Okay, and this is a MANET. Okay, so there's no physical connection. These now connections are just shown to you so that you understand which are the direct neighbors. Okay, this is not a wired network. Okay. So there are almost like you can see in the table, this is the table with we are calculating the nodes. We are assuming that the source node is N4. Okay, let's assume that we are sending the packets from N4 to all the other nodes in the network. Okay, so since there are total 5 nodes in the network, so the remaining 4 nodes are shown as the destination nodes. Okay, it's pretty simple, right? N4 is the source node, so therefore N4 cannot be shown here, but all the other nodes besides the N4 will be shown. There is entries for N1, N2, N3 and N5. Okay, so one of the entries is the destination. Okay, then next entry is the next hop. Okay, so from N4, suppose I want to send a packet to N1. Okay, so then in which direction is it has to be sent? So starting from here, I have to decide in which direction I have to send the packet so that it reaches N1. Okay, it could so happen that N1 only may be the next node. Okay, is the destination. Okay, but N4 is right now calculating the proper routes or the shortest routes to each and every node. So it decides which is the direction. There are many directions it can send the packets. Okay, so it has to decide for N1 in which direction the packet has to be sent. So it knows that for N1 it has to send a packet to this node, that is, this has to be the next node, and that is the proper direction for the packet to reach the destination, that is N1. Therefore the entry for the next node or the next hop is also N1. Okay, and the distance there's one link between, okay, this is not a actual wired link, but there is one link between N4 and N1, so therefore the distance is put as 1. Okay, then like I told you, DSDB incorporates a sequence numbering scheme. So the sequence numbers will are just like some random numbers that are generated. Okay, so it's not like there's some algorithm to this. They generate some number. So in this case, the sequence number for this has been put as 321. Okay, actually they'll be having a algorithm, but right now in your textbook it has not been mentioned as how they get to these sequence numbers. Okay, so if I can find out how that happens in future, I'll update you with that information. But right now, they're not really mentioned how the sequence numbers are generated. Okay, so they use a sequence number for each root. Okay, the purpose of the sequence number I'll let you know later. Okay, like I've already also mentioned to you, it is to avoid looping and to avoid roots that are no longer in use. Okay, so we'll see how that is happening. So the fifth parameter in the table is the install time. So basically in what time you have updated this entry in the table, that time is kind of noted here. Okay, so what time the entry was made in the table. So this time also could be used to update the table, that is to delete the older entries. So if you are getting duplicate entries, then you could use this time to delete the older entries. Okay, so in future if I get another update for N1, okay, so this time could be 00 say 4. So since this is a newer update, okay, the time is more recent compared to this, so I could delete this entry and keep the latest entry. Okay, so that is the basic purpose of your install time. Similarly, you could have also used your sequence number for that same purpose. Okay, I'll show you later how that works. So for the next entry, how you get is, now for N1 you have understood. Now from N4, let's see what is the metric for N2. So the destination is N2. So it wants to reach the destination N2. Then the next node that it has to forward the packet also is N2. Okay. The distance to N2, let's assume, is 1. Okay. Some sequence number for that route is stored, and the time that the entry was made is also 001. Then to send a packet to N3. Okay, so assume that N4, as you can see here, actually it could have sent through 2 ways. Okay, but let's assume that this is the shortest path, that is from N2 to N3. Okay, assume that this is the shortest path, this one. Okay, so since N4 is not having a direct route to N3, destination is N3, it wants to send a packet here, but since it's not having a direct route, but using the Bellman-Ford algorithm, it will find out that this is the shortest path. Okay, so in the shortest path, the next node in which the packet should be forwarded so that it reaches N3 from N4 is, the next node is N2. Okay, assuming that each link is having a distance of 1, so 1 plus 1 will be equal to 2. So you make that entry, there's some sequence number associated with that, and the entry was made at the time 002. Okay, similarly, like I told you, this is node N5. So when it wants to send a packet to N5, it can, the next node also will be directly N5. The distance is 1, some sequence number has been put, and the time is, entry has been made at 002. Okay, now assume that after this table has been built, so this is the table now, this is the routing table only for N4. Okay, so whenever a packet comes at N4 and it is not meant for N4, okay, it will use this routing table and decide where that packet has to be forwarded based on this routing table. So it is having all the other nodes in the network, the destination, and it knows in which direction those packets, this packet that is come, some packet X say, where this packet X has to be forwarded, in which direction. Okay, it knows in which direction the packets have to be forwarded. Okay, so similarly, such routing tables have to be created for each and every node in the network. Okay, so any questions with how you generate this table? Anyone has any doubt how that table is generated? Again, we are not going to go into all the steps of the Bellman-Ford algorithm. We are not going to study in detail all those things. Okay. Okay, you can just go through the steps that I've just mentioned to you, how that table is generated. So once this table has been generated, okay, then this table can be sent across to by each node to its neighbors. Okay, based on this table exchange, then each neighbor will recompute their nodes, their routes for the entire network. Then you keep doing this till the changes stop finally. Okay, so till the updating information that becomes more stable, the changes become less frequent, less. So till then you keep exchanging the tables between the neighbors. At the end, each node will have the shortest path to the destination. Okay, so let me tell you how this process will work in case one of the nodes get disconnected or one of the node moves away from the network. Okay, remember this is a MANET, it's not a wired connection. Okay, so assume, just for assumption, let's assume that this entry node, this node gets disconnected. Okay, if this node gets disconnected, how will the table for N4 get updated? It needs to get updated, right? So what will happen is, whenever this node gets disconnected, okay, N2 will discover that, okay, N2 will discover that nothing is going to this node. Okay, so basically it will set in its table the entry for N2 will set the entry for this node as the next hop entry will be set as infinity. Okay, so one of the neighbors that is connected to this will discover that, or all the neighbors may discover it. Okay, so in this case I'm just showing you that N2 discovers that that route has got bad. Okay, so when N2 discovers that this route is no longer accepting the packets, or the packets are not reaching there, it will update this entry for this node as next hop as infinity. The meaning of that is infinity, meaning it cannot send a packet to that destination. Okay, that destination no longer exists. So once it updates its table, so it makes an update in its table. Okay, so this is the table for N2. So once it does that, it broadcasts this table. It sends it across to all its neighbors. Okay, so this table entry, like I told you, it will be using one of the two types of packets for updating the routing information, full dump or incremental. Okay, so using one of these two types of routing packets, it will send its table entry for entry to its neighbors. So the same entry that it had made here in this will reach N1, N4 and N5. So then each of these neighbors will update their tables. Okay, so assume that N2 had made this entry. Okay, so once this which is say N4. Okay, so since this is the table for N4, let's only discuss for N4 how that entry change will be made. So N4 will get this table from N2 and it will make this entry like this. So it will enter the node as destination entry. Next hop is infinity. Okay, this it may leave as blank. Okay, here it may have a greater sequence number. Okay, so here the sequence number may be say 500. Say the install time is 005 or the entry time is, this entry has been made in the table at 005. Now it is having duplicate entries. It is having duplicate entries. So based on this installed time, this is greater than this. Okay, and this is more later. So based on this time, this entry could be considered as old entry and deleted, or based on this sequence number, this sequence number is greater than this sequence number, then based on the sequence number also, it may consider this as an old entry and delete it. When you delete it, N4 will have the new entry for entry. So whenever it gets a packet that has to be sent to entry, it will know that based on this infinity value, it will know that entry no longer, the connection no longer exists. Or entry is down, it's no longer part of the network, or it has moved away from the network. So this is basically how whenever a node is moving around, it's not part of the network, or the battery gets discharged, or various other factors due to which a node can fail. And that is one of the ways in which a route gets updated in ESDB. Okay. Now, as you could see in this example, N4 had no direct way of finding out that entry failed. Okay, since it's not directly connected. Like I told you, this is based on the distance vector. So it is N4 is dependent on its neighbors to provide it the status of nodes that it is not connected to. Okay, so this is the way the neighbors provide it with information. Clear? So if two nodes also would discover that entry would be not working at the same time, okay, then again only one entry would be made on the table, in the table, based on the latest time. Based on the latest time, the only the latest entry would be considered. Okay, so this way they avoid having duplicate entries in the table for each node. So this is how your DSDV algorithm works in the very simple form. Any questions for me with regards to this? Okay. If there are no questions, then I think